I came home from my 9-month deployment in Afghanistan to find padlocks on my doors and a notice taped to the window that said my property had been seized for unpaid HOA dues and my belongings sold at auction 3 weeks prior. Standing there in my dusty uniform with my duffel bag at my feet, I felt something inside me crack wide open. My name is Oliver O'Connor, and I had bought my 3-bedroom ranch house in Clearwater, Florida, 2 years before deploying. It was modest but mine, paid for with my savings and a VA loan. The neighborhood, Sunset Grove Estates, seemed perfect when I moved in. Clean streets, decent neighbors, and a pool I never used. The HOA fees were $75 a month, which seemed reasonable enough. I set up automatic payments through my bank before I left, made sure everything was squared away, and headed overseas with the Army. Now I was staring at my own front door like it belonged to someone else. I tried my key. It did not work. The locks had been changed. Through the window, I could see my living room was completely empty. No couch, no television, no coffee table my dad had built for me before he passed. Nothing but carpet and bare walls. My hands started shaking. I pulled out my phone and called the number on the notice. A woman answered on the 3rd ring. Sunset Grove HOA, this is Patricia speaking. This is Oliver O'Connor. I just got back from deployment and my house has been locked and emptied. What the hell happened? Oh, Mr. O'Connor. Her voice went cold immediately. You failed to pay your HOA dues for 7 consecutive months. Per Florida statute and our bylaws, we had every right to place a lien on your property and auction your belongings to recoup the debt. I set up automatic payments. I have been serving my country overseas. You cannot just... The payments stopped coming in February. We sent multiple notices to your address. I was not here to receive them. I was deployed. That is not our problem, Mr. O'Connor. You should have made arrangements. The property is still yours, but you owe us $8,000 in back dues, late fees, legal fees, and auction costs before we remove the lien. $8,000 for 7 months of $75 payments. The math did not even make sense. I need to get into my house. Pay the lien amount first. Have a nice day. She hung up. I stood there on my own front porch, still wearing my combat boots, and wanted to put my fist through the door. Instead, I called my older brother Marcus, who lived 2 hours north in Tampa. Ollie, you are back. Why did you not tell me? I need help, Marcus. Something bad happened. He drove down that same day. When he pulled up in his pickup truck and saw me sitting on the curb with my duffel bag, he knew it was serious. I explained everything while we sat in his truck with the air conditioning running. They cannot do that, Marcus said. You were deployed. There are laws protecting service members. Apparently they can and did. Do you still have your bank statements, proof that you set up the payments? Everything is digital. I can access it. I pulled out my phone and logged into my bank account. It took a few minutes, but I found the problem. In February, my bank had issued new debit cards after a security breach. The automatic payment tied to my old card number had stopped processing. The bank had sent me a new card, but it went to my house in Florida while I was in Kandahar. I had no way of knowing the payments had stopped. This is not your fault, Marcus said. They should have tried harder to reach you. Did they have your email? Your phone number? I gave them everything when I bought the place. And they never called or emailed. I checked my email, scrolling back months. Nothing from the HOA except one message from February that had gone to my spam folder. It said my payment had failed and to update my information. One email. That was it. This is garbage, Ollie. We are going to fix this. Marcus was a construction foreman, not a lawyer, but he had dealt with enough contractors and legal issues to know when something was wrong. We drove to a hotel and got me a room for the night. I took my first real shower in what felt like forever and changed into civilian clothes. It felt strange not wearing a uniform. Everything felt strange. The next morning, we went to the HOA office. It was located in a small strip mall near the entrance to the neighborhood, wedged between a dry cleaner and a tax preparation service. Inside, a woman sat behind a desk with a nameplate that read, Patricia Donovan, HOA President. She was maybe 50, with short blonde hair sprayed into place and a pearl necklace that looked like it cost more than my first car. "Can I help you?" She did not look up from her computer. "I am Oliver O'Connor. We spoke on the phone yesterday." Now she looked up. Her expression was somewhere between annoyed and triumphant. "Oh yes, do you have the payment?" "No, I need to talk about what happened. I was deployed. I am in the Army. There are laws. I am aware of the Service Members Civil Relief Act," Patricia interrupted. "It does not apply here. You failed to maintain your financial obligations. We followed proper procedure. You sent one email that went to my spam folder. You never called me. We are not required to hunt people down, Mr. O'Connor. The bylaws state that notices sent to the property address are considered delivered. We sent certified letters to a house I was not living in because I was serving overseas." Patricia folded her hands on her desk. "Again, not our problem. You could have appointed someone to check your mail. You could have set up mail forwarding. You could have ensured your payments continued. You did none of those things." Marcus leaned forward. "Where are his belongings? What was sold?" "Everything was sold at public auction 3 weeks ago. We have a list if you would like to see it." She pulled out a printed spreadsheet and slid it across the desk. I looked at the list and felt sick. My couch, my television, my bed, my father's coffee table, my clothes, my books, my dishes, my tools, my laptop with photos of my parents, both deceased, my mother's wedding ring that I kept in my nightstand. Every single thing I owned had been sold, most items going for a fraction of what they were worth. My 60-inch television sold for $80. My father's handmade coffee table went for $35. "This is theft," I said quietly. "It is legal recovery of debt," Patricia replied. "If you would like to dispute it, you are welcome to hire a lawyer. Now, if you are not here to pay, I need to ask you to leave. I have work to do." We left. In the parking lot, Marcus put his hand on my shoulder. "We are getting you a lawyer, a good one." I did not have money for a good lawyer. I had my military pay and whatever was in my savings account, which was not much after buying the house. But Marcus insisted. He knew a guy who knew a guy, and by that afternoon, I was sitting in the office of Robert Chen, an attorney in Tampa who specialized in real estate law and military issues. Robert was in his 40s, sharp-eyed, with a no-nonsense attitude that I appreciated immediately. I told him everything. He listened, took notes, and pulled up Florida statutes on his computer. "They violated the Service Members Civil Relief Act," he said finally, "without question. The SCRA protects active duty military members from default judgments and requires certain procedures before taking action against their property. They also violated Florida HOA law, which requires reasonable attempts to contact homeowners before taking such drastic action. One email is not reasonable, especially when they had your phone number. So I can get my stuff back. Your stuff is gone, but we can sue for damages. We can also file a complaint with the state and potentially pursue criminal charges if we can prove intentional misconduct. I need to review the HOA bylaws and the correspondence they claim to have sent. Can you get me copies of everything? I can try. Also, I need documentation of your deployment, orders, dates, everything." I had all of that. Robert took my case on contingency. which meant he would not get paid unless we won. That told me he thought we had a real shot. Over the next week, I stayed with Marcus in Tampa and started rebuilding my life from scratch. I bought clothes at Goodwill. I borrowed money from Marcus for food and necessities. I felt like I was back at basic training, starting with nothing. The Army had debriefed me and processed my return, but I was on leave for another month before I had to report to my new duty station at Fort Stewart in Georgia. Robert filed the lawsuit 2 weeks after our first meeting. He sued Patricia Donovan personally, the HOA as an organization, and the property management company they had hired to handle the auction. The lawsuit sought damages for the value of my belongings, emotional distress, violations of the SCRA, and punitive damages for willful misconduct. The total amount was over $200,000. When Patricia got served with the lawsuit, she called me. I did not answer, so she left a voicemail. Her voice was shaking with anger. "Mr. O'Connor, this lawsuit is frivolous and insulting. You are trying to take advantage of your military service to avoid responsibility for your own failures. We will fight this to the bitter end, and when we win, we will countersue you for our legal fees. You have made a terrible mistake." I saved the voicemail and sent it to Robert. He loved it. "She is doubling down," he said. "That is perfect." Judges do not like people who show no remorse, especially when they have wronged a service member. The HOA hired a law firm from Miami. They filed a response denying all wrongdoing and claiming they had followed proper procedure. They also filed a counterclaim for $8,000 in unpaid fees and costs. Discovery started. That meant both sides had to exchange documents and evidence. Robert subpoenaed all of the HOA's records related to my case, including emails, letters, meeting minutes, and financial records. What we found was damning. The HOA had not sent any certified letters to my house. They had documentation claiming they did, but there were no tracking numbers, no receipts, nothing. They had fabricated the records. The only actual communication was that one email to my spam folder. Even worse, the property management company they hired had a reputation for aggressive collections and had been sued multiple times by other homeowners. The HOA board meeting minutes showed that Patricia had pushed hard for the auction, overriding concerns from other board members who thought they should wait longer or try harder to contact me. Robert also found that the auction itself was questionable. It had been advertised in a small local newspaper for 1 day only, and the ads were placed in the legal notices section where almost no one would see them. The auction was held on a Wednesday morning at 9 a.m., when most people were at work. Only 4 people attended. 3 of them were friends or relatives of Patricia. They bought most of my belongings for pennies on the dollar. Robert filed an amended complaint adding fraud and conspiracy charges. He also sent a copy of everything to the Florida Attorney General's office and the local state attorney. Patricia's lawyer tried to get the case dismissed. The judge denied the motion and set a trial date for 6 months out. In the meantime, I had to report to Fort Stewart. Marcus drove me to Georgia and helped me get set up in temporary housing on base. I had nothing but my military gear, the clothes I bought at Goodwill, and a borrowed laptop. My command was understanding. When I explained what happened, my company commander connected me with the base legal assistance office. They provided additional support and documentation that Robert could use at trial. They also wrote letters confirming my deployment dates and status. The months crawled by. I focused on my work, but the lawsuit was always in the back of my mind. Robert kept me updated. The HOA was fighting hard, spending thousands on legal fees. They tried to settle twice, offering to pay me $10,000 to drop the case. Robert advised me to refuse, and I did. This was not about money anymore. It was about principle. Finally, the trial date arrived. I took leave and flew back to Florida. The trial was held in the Pinellas County Courthouse in Clearwater, a modern building with high ceilings and too much air conditioning. Robert had prepared me for what to expect, but nothing really prepares you for facing down the people who destroyed your life in open court. The trial lasted 4 days. On the first day, Robert laid out our case. He presented my deployment orders, my bank records showing the automatic payment setup, and the card change that caused the failure, and the timeline of events. He showed that I had no way of knowing my payments had stopped, and that the HOA made minimal effort to contact me. Patricia's lawyer argued that I was responsible for my own affairs, and that the HOA had no obligation to go above and beyond. He painted me as irresponsible and trying to use my military service as an excuse. That did not go over well with the judge, who was a veteran himself. On the second day, Robert called me to the stand. I testified about buying the house, setting up the payments, deploying to Afghanistan, and coming home to find everything gone. I talked about my father's coffee table and my mother's ring. I kept my voice steady, but it was hard. The jury, 8 men and 4 women, watched me intently. Patricia's lawyer cross-examined me aggressively. He tried to make me admit that I should have done more to ensure my payments continued. He asked why I did not have someone checking on my house. I explained that I did not have family in Florida and my friends were also deployed or had moved. I trusted that the automatic payment would work, and I had no reason to believe otherwise. But you could have checked your bank account online while deployed, correct? The lawyer asked. Yes, occasionally. But internet access was limited and inconsistent. I checked maybe once a month, usually just to make sure my pay was being deposited. I did not scrutinize every transaction. So you admit you were not paying attention to your finances. I was focused on my mission and staying alive, I said. My priorities were different. The judge interjected. Counsel, move on. You have made your point. On the third day, Robert called Patricia to the stand. This was what I had been waiting for. Patricia wore a navy blue suit and her pearl necklace. She looked confident, almost smug. Robert started gently, asking about her role as HOA president and the responsibilities involved. Then he moved to my case. When did you first become aware that Mr. O'Connor's payments had stopped? In February of last year. And what did you do? We sent a notice to his property address informing him of the missed payment. Did you call him? No, we typically communicate by mail. Did you email him? Yes, we sent an email as well. 1 email. Yes. Did you follow up when he did not respond? We sent additional letters over the following months. Robert pulled out the documents from Discovery. But there is no evidence that those letters were actually sent, is there? No tracking numbers, no certified mail receipts. Just printouts claiming they were sent. Patricia hesitated. We sent them. Can you prove it? Our records show. Your records show printouts that could have been created at any time. There is no independent verification. Isn't that correct? I suppose, and you had Mr. O'Connor's phone number on file, correct? Yes, but you never called him. We are not required to. You knew he was in the military, correct? That was disclosed when he purchased the property. Yes. Did it occur to you that he might be deployed? That is not our concern. Robert paused, letting that statement hang in the air. The jury shifted in their seats. One woman frowned. You proceeded with the lien and the auction despite knowing he was a service member and despite having no proof he actually received any of your notices. We followed our bylaws. Did you know that 3 of the 4 people who attended the auction were your personal friends or relatives? Patricia's confidence wavered. I do not see how that is relevant. Did you disclose that relationship to the other board members? I did not think it was necessary. Did your friend Susan Cartwright purchase Mr. O'Connor's television for $80 at the auction? I believe so. And did she later sell that television on Facebook Marketplace for $600? Patricia went pale. I do not know what she did with it. Robert pulled out a printout of the Facebook listing, complete with photos. This is your friend Susan, correct? Same address, same profile picture. She sold Mr. O'Connor's television for $600 just days after paying $80 for it at an auction you organized. I was not involved in that. But you were involved in the auction. You pushed for it despite objections from other board members, correct? I did what I thought was right for the HOA. What you thought was right was to sell off the belongings of a deployed soldier with minimal notice and minimal effort to contact him, and to allow your friends and family to buy his property at bargain prices. Patricia's lawyer objected. The judge sustained it but told Robert to continue. One more question, Mrs. Donovan. Did you personally profit from this auction in any way? No. Robert pulled out another document. You charged the HOA a $500 administrative fee for organizing the auction, which you paid to yourself. Is that correct? That is standard procedure for the work involved. So you did profit. Patricia did not answer. Robert let her off the stand. The damage was done. The jury looked at Patricia like she was something they had scraped off their shoes. On the fourth day, both sides gave closing arguments. Patricia's lawyer tried to refocus on the letter of the law, arguing that the HOA had technically followed procedures. Robert gave a passionate closing about justice and fairness and the sacrifices made by service members. He pointed out the lies, the fabricated records, the self-dealing, and the complete lack of humanity shown by Patricia and the HOA. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous. They found in my favor on all counts. The damages were staggering. They awarded me $75,000 for the value of my belongings, $50,000 for emotional distress, and $200,000 in punitive damages. The total was $325,000. I sat there in stunned silence. Robert squeezed my shoulder. Patricia looked like she might throw up. Her lawyer immediately said they would appeal, but Robert was not done. After the trial, the state attorney's office reviewed the evidence and decided to pursue criminal charges. Patricia and 2 board members were charged with fraud and theft. The property management company was also charged. The criminal case took another 6 months, but the outcome was similar. Patricia pleaded guilty to avoid jail time and was sentenced to 2 years probation, 300 hours of community service, and ordered to pay restitution. The other board members got similar sentences. The property management company was fined and lost its license. The HOA itself was dissolved. The homeowners in Sunset Grove voted to form a new association with new bylaws and new leadership. Several neighbors reached out to apologize for not knowing what had happened and for not standing up for me. Getting the money was another battle. The HOA did not have $300,000 in their accounts. They had to take out a loan and assess every homeowner in the neighborhood a special fee to cover the judgment. I felt bad for the neighbors who had nothing to do with it, but Robert assured me that they could sue Patricia personally for mismanagement. Several of them did. I received the full amount over the course of a year as the HOA liquidated assets and made payments. I used the money to replace everything I had lost. I bought new furniture, a new television, new clothes. I could not replace my father's coffee table, but I found a craftsman in Tampa who specialized in custom furniture. I showed him photos and descriptions, and he built me a replica. It was not the same, but it was close. My mother's ring was gone forever, but I used some of the money to start a scholarship fund in her name for children of deployed service members. I also bought a new house, this time in a neighborhood with no HOA. I wanted nothing to do with those organizations ever again. Marcus helped me move in, and we sat on my new porch with beers, watching the sun set over the Georgia pines near Fort Stewart. "You did it, Ollie," Marcus said. "You fought back and won. I should not have had to fight at all." "No, but you did, and you won. That counts for something." It did count for something, but the experience changed me. I became an advocate for military members dealing with similar issues. I worked with legal assistance offices to create checklists for service members before deployment, making sure they had protections in place. I spoke at a few events about my experience, warning people about predatory HOAs and the importance of documentation. Patricia disappeared from public life. Last I heard, she had moved to another state to escape the stigma. I did not care where she went as long as she was not in a position to hurt anyone else. The entire ordeal, from finding my house locked to receiving the last payment, took almost 2 years. 2 years of stress, anger, and fighting. But I got through it. The Army taught me resilience, and I needed every bit of it. I still think about coming home from deployment and seeing those padlocks on my door. That moment of shock and betrayal. But I also think about the jury's verdict, about the judge's words when he upheld the damages, about Patricia's face when she realized she was not going to get away with it. Justice is not always swift, but when it comes, it feels like the sun breaking through clouds after a storm. My new house is smaller than the one I lost, but it is mine, truly mine. No one can take it from me without a real fight, and I know how to fight now. I learned that in the Army, and I relearned it in that courtroom. The experience made me harder in some ways, more cynical about people and systems. But it also showed me that there are good people too. Robert Chen, who took my case knowing I could not pay him up front. Marcus, who never hesitated to help his little brother. The jury members who saw through the lies and did the right thing. Some nights I still dream about my father's coffee table, the real one, with the rings from water glasses and the scratch from when I dropped a wrench while assembling my bike. I dream about my mother's ring, the thin gold band she wore for 40 years. Those things are gone, and no amount of money brings them back. But I have the memories, and I have the knowledge that I stood up for myself and won. A few months after everything was settled, I got a letter from another service member stationed at Fort Hood in Texas. He had heard about my case and was dealing with a similar situation. His HOA had foreclosed on his house while he was deployed to Kuwait. He asked for advice. I connected him with Robert Chen, who took his case too. That service member won his lawsuit as well. Then there was another case, and another. Robert started specializing in these cases, building a reputation as the lawyer who fought for deployed service members against predatory HOAs. I like to think that something good came out of my nightmare. Other people did not have to suffer because the legal precedent was set. HOAs became more careful, more aware that they could not just steamroll over military members with impunity. Florida even passed a new law strengthening protections for deployed service members, partly because of my case. A state representative contacted me and asked me to testify when they were considering the legislation. I did, and it passed unanimously. Standing in the Florida state capitol, telling my story to a room full of legislators, I felt like I had finally turned the experience into something meaningful. I was not just a victim anymore. I was someone who had fought back and changed things. The new law required HOAs to make substantial efforts to contact homeowners before taking any action on liens or foreclosures. They had to call, email, and send certified mail. If they knew someone was in the military, they had to contact the service member's command to verify deployment status and ensure the member was aware of any issues. Violations carried serious penalties, including criminal charges for willful misconduct. Patricia would have gone to jail under the new law. That thought gave me some satisfaction. I finished my enlistment with the Army and decided not to re-enlist. The deployment had been hard enough, and fighting the lawsuit while trying to serve had been exhausting. I wanted a normal life, whatever that meant. I used my GI Bill to go back to school, studying business management at a state university in Georgia. I figured if I understood how organizations worked, I could help prevent situations like mine from happening to others. During my first semester, I gave a presentation in one of my classes about ethical business practices. I used my HOA case as an example of what happens when people prioritize rules and money over humanity and common sense. My professor was impressed and asked me to present at a conference on property management and HOA governance. That led to consulting work, helping HOAs develop better policies and training board members on their responsibilities. It was strange, spending so much time working with the very organizations that had caused me so much pain. But I found that most HOAs were run by decent people trying to do their best. They just needed guidance and oversight. The problems came from people like Patricia, who let a little bit of power go to their heads and forgot that they were supposed to serve their neighbors, not rule over them. I met my wife, Rebecca O'Donnell, at one of those conferences. She was a property manager who had taken over the company that used to manage Sunset Grove, the same company that had been involved in my case. She had cleaned house, firing everyone involved in questionable practices and implementing strict ethical guidelines. We started talking during a break, and she apologized for what her predecessor company had done. "You do not need to apologize," I said. "You were not part of it." "I know, but I represent that company now, and I want you to know that we are different." We got coffee after the conference, and then dinner, and then we were dating. She understood what I had been through in a way most people did not. She had seen the damage that bad HOAs could do, and she was passionate about fixing the industry from the inside. We got married 2 years later in a small ceremony in Savannah, with Marcus as my best man and Robert Chen in attendance. Rebecca and I started a consulting business together, working with HOAs and property management companies to improve their practices. We developed training programs, wrote new bylaws templates that protected homeowners while still allowing associations to function, and provided mediation services when disputes arose. It was fulfilling work, taking something terrible and turning it into a career helping others. But I never forgot where it all started. Every year on the anniversary of the day I came home to find my house locked, I visit the courthouse in Clearwater where the trial took place. It is my way of remembering, of honoring the struggle and the victory. Sometimes Marcus joins me and we go out for lunch afterward, talking about how far we have come. The money from the lawsuit set me up for life, honestly. $325,000 is a lot, especially when you invest it wisely, but it never felt like a windfall. It felt like compensation for trauma, for violation, for loss. I would have traded it all to come home from deployment and find my house intact with all my belongings waiting for me. I would have traded it to still have my father's coffee table and my mother's ring, but life does not work that way. You cannot go back. You can only move forward, taking the lessons and the scars with you. I think about Patricia sometimes, wondering if she ever feels remorse. Probably not. People like that usually find a way to justify their actions, to convince themselves they were in the right. But I hope she thinks about me occasionally, about the soldier she tried to steamroll who fought back and won. I hope it keeps her up at night. The last time I drove through Clearwater, I stopped by Sunset Grove Estates. The neighborhood looked the same, neat lawns and clean streets. My old house had new owners, a young family with kids playing in the yard. They had painted the shutters blue and put up a swing set. It looked happy, alive. That made me feel better about it. I did not stop or introduce myself. What would I say? Hi, I used to live here until the HOA stole everything I owned. They did not need to know that history. Let them have their fresh start. I have my fresh start too. A new house, a wife I love, a career that matters. I have Marcus nearby, still ready to help at a moment's notice. I have friends from the Army who check in on me regularly. I have a life I built from nothing, twice now. The experience taught me things I wish I did not have to learn. It taught me that systems can be corrupt, that people in power can be cruel, and that fighting back is hard and exhausting. But it also taught me that justice is possible, that good people exist, and that resilience is not just about surviving but about rebuilding stronger than before. I give talks at military bases now, part of pre-deployment briefings. I tell my story and give practical advice. Set up automatic payments but check them regularly. Give someone you trust power of attorney to handle issues if they arise. Document everything. Know your rights under the SCRA. Do not assume organizations will do the right thing. Protect yourself because no one else will. The soldiers listen intently. Some of them come up afterward to thank me or ask questions. A few have told me later that my advice saved them from similar situations. That means more to me than the money ever could. I also work with veteran service organizations, helping former military members navigate legal issues related to property, debt, and other civil matters. I am not a lawyer, but I know the landscape now. I can point people in the right direction and help them avoid the pitfalls I fell into. Rebecca and I have talked about starting a nonprofit focused specifically on these issues, but for now, we are content with the consulting work. Maybe someday, when we have more resources and time. For now, we are making a difference one HOA at a time. The funny thing is, I never wanted to be an activist or a consultant or any of this. I just wanted to serve my country, come home, and live a quiet life. But sometimes life has other plans. Sometimes you get thrown into the fire and you either burn up or you come out forged into something stronger. I came out stronger. There are days when I still feel angry about what happened. Days when I think about Patricia and the board members and the property management company and I want to scream. Days when I look at the replica coffee table and feel the loss of the original all over again. Those days are less frequent now, but they still come. On those days. Rebecca reminds me of what I accomplished. She reminds me that I did not just win a lawsuit, I changed laws. I helped other people. I turned trauma into purpose. That helps, but it does not erase the anger entirely. Maybe it never will. Maybe that is okay. Anger can be fuel if you use it right. I use mine to push for better protections, better laws, better practices. I use it to hold organizations accountable and to give voice to people who might not have the resources or knowledge to fight back themselves. That feels right. Marcus retired from construction work last year and now helps with the consulting business part-time. He enjoys meeting with HOA boards and property managers, using his practical construction knowledge to help them understand maintenance issues and budgets. We make a good team, the three of us. Marcus with his common sense and work ethic, Rebecca with her industry knowledge and management skills, and me with my lived experience and drive for justice. We have helped dozens of HOAs improve their operations. We have mediated countless disputes and helped homeowners understand their rights. We have trained hundreds of board members on ethical governance. It is good work, meaningful work. But sometimes, late at night when I cannot sleep, I still think about that moment on my front porch. The padlock on the door, the empty rooms visible through the window, the feeling of betrayal and helplessness. Those memories do not fade. They are seared into my brain, as vivid now as they were then. I tell myself those memories serve a purpose. They remind me why this work matters. They keep me grounded and focused. They ensure I never become complacent or forget what is at stake when HOAs abuse their power. I received a letter last month from a veteran in California who won his case against an HOA that tried to foreclose on his house while he was deployed. He used my case as precedent and won full damages plus attorney fees. He sent me a photo of himself standing in front of his house with his wife and kids, all of them smiling. He wrote, "Thank you for fighting. You saved my home and my family." That letter is framed on my office wall now. It reminds me that pain can have purpose, that suffering can lead to change, and that standing up for yourself can help others stand up too. Would I go through it all again if I had the choice? No, absolutely not. It was hell, pure and simple. The stress, the anger, the loss, the fight, all of it nearly broke me. But I did go through it, and I survived, and I made something of it. That has to count for something. I look at my life now and feel grateful, which is strange given how it all started. But I am grateful for Marcus, who never hesitated to help. Grateful for Robert Chen, who believed in my case. Grateful for the jury who saw the truth. Grateful for Rebecca, who loves me despite all my rough edges and trauma. Grateful for the opportunities to help others that came from my worst experience. Life is funny that way. The worst things can sometimes lead to the best things if you let them. I almost let the anger consume me. I almost gave up during the lawsuit when it seemed like Patricia would never face consequences. I almost walked away from it all and tried to forget. But I did not. I kept fighting, kept pushing, kept believing that justice would come eventually. And it did. That is the message I try to convey when I speak to service members or homeowners or anyone dealing with institutional abuse. Do not give up. Document everything. Find good help. Use the system even when it seems like the system is against you. Fight smart, fight hard, and do not let the bastards wear you down. Most importantly, know your rights. If I had known about the SCRA protections before I deployed, I might have taken additional precautions. If I had known about Florida HOA laws, I might have pushed back harder earlier. Knowledge is power, especially when facing organizations that count on your ignorance. I have become something of an expert on HOA law now, at least in Florida and Georgia. I have read the statutes, studied case law, attended seminars. I can quote chapter and verse about homeowner rights and HOA responsibilities. It is knowledge I never wanted but use constantly. Rebecca jokes that I should go to law school, but I am happy where I am. I can help people without spending 3 more years in school and taking the bar exam. I can connect people with good lawyers like Robert and provide guidance based on experience. That is enough. We have a good life, Rebecca and I. We work hard, but we also travel and enjoy ourselves. We have a house we love, friends we care about, and work that matters. We talk about having kids someday, passing on the lessons we have learned about resilience and justice and standing up for yourself. I want my kids, if we have them, to grow up knowing that systems can be flawed, but they can also be changed. That authority should be questioned when it acts unjustly. That service to others is noble, but you also have to protect yourself. That coming home should feel safe, not like a betrayal. Those are hard lessons, but they are important ones. I think about the soldier I was before deployment, naive and trusting, believing that if you followed the rules and did the right thing, Everything would work out. That soldier died somewhere between Kandahar and Clearwater. The person I am now is harder, more cynical, but also stronger and more capable. I miss the innocence sometimes. I miss believing the best about people and systems. But I do not miss the vulnerability that came with it. I am better equipped now to handle whatever life throws at me. And life has thrown plenty. After the HOA case, I dealt with PTSD from deployment, adjustment issues from returning to civilian life, relationship struggles before I met Rebecca. Each challenge taught me something, shaped me, made me who I am today. I am not just a veteran. I am not just an HOA victim. I am not just a consultant or advocate. I am all of those things and more, a complex person with scars and strengths, failures and victories, pain and purpose. That is the real story, I guess. Not just what happened with the HOA, but how it changed me and what I did with that change. The lawsuit and the criminal case and the money were all important, but the real victory was refusing to let the experience destroy me. The real victory was building something better from the rubble. Patricia tried to take everything from me, and in some ways she succeeded. But she also gave me something, though not intentionally. She gave me purpose, direction, and a cause worth fighting for. She showed me that I was stronger than I thought, more resilient than I knew, more capable of fighting back than I ever imagined. For that, in a twisted way, I am almost grateful. Almost. Mostly I am just glad it is over. Glad I won. Glad justice was served. Glad I can help others avoid or survive similar situations. Glad I found meaning in the madness. On quiet evenings, Rebecca and I sit on our porch and watch the sunset. We talk about our day, about clients and cases and plans for the future. Sometimes we talk about the past, about how we got here. Those conversations are bittersweet, acknowledging the pain while celebrating the outcome. You think Patricia ever thinks about what she did? Rebecca asked me once. I hope so, I said, but I doubt it. People like that do not usually do self-reflection. You still hate her. I thought about that. Hate is exhausting. I am tired of being angry. Mostly I just pity her now. She threw away her reputation and her freedom over $75 monthly fees. That is pathetic. Rebecca squeezed my hand. You are a better person than me. I would still hate her. Maybe I should hate Patricia. Maybe the fact that I do not means I have truly moved on, or maybe it just means I am tired of carrying that weight. Either way, I choose not to hate her anymore. I choose to focus on the positive things that came from the experience and let the rest fade into the background. That does not mean I have forgiven her. Forgiveness and letting go of hate are not the same thing. I can release the anger without excusing what she did. I can move forward without pretending the past did not happen. This is the balance I have found, the way I cope with what happened. Acknowledge it, learn from it, use it, but do not let it consume me. Some days are easier than others, but overall it works. I have been home from that deployment for almost 5 years now. 5 years since I stood on my porch with a padlock mocking me. 5 years since my world fell apart. In that time, I have rebuilt everything and then some. I have a life that is better in many ways than what I had before, though it cost me dearly to get here. Was it worth it? That is the question people ask sometimes, indirectly. Was the fight worth it? Was the stress and anger and time worth the money and the changes and the satisfaction of victory? I do not know how to answer that. It was not a choice. I could not just walk away and let Patricia and the HOA get away with it. I had to fight back, not because I wanted to, but because I had no other option that let me live with myself. So was it worth it? The question does not really apply. It was necessary and I did it, and here I am. If I could go back and prevent the whole thing from happening, I would do it in a heartbeat. I would triple-check my automatic payments. I would give Marcus power of attorney. I would set up mail forwarding. I would do whatever it took to avoid coming home to locked doors and empty rooms. But I cannot go back. None of us can. We can only go forward with what we have learned and what we have become. I am a better person now in some ways, stronger and more resilient and more aware. But I am also more damaged, carrying scars that do not show but are always there. It is a trade I did not want to make but had no choice about. This is life, I guess. A series of events and reactions, choices and consequences, victories and losses all mixed together into something messy and complicated and ultimately meaningful, if we let it be. I let it be meaningful. I turned my worst experience into my greatest purpose. I helped people, changed laws, built a career and a life from the ashes of what Patricia destroyed. That is my story. From deployment to betrayal to lawsuit to victory to advocacy. From soldier to victim to fighter to consultant. From having everything to having nothing to building something better. It is not the story I would have written for myself, but it is the story I have. And ultimately, I am okay with that. More than okay, actually. I am proud of it. Proud of what I survived, proud of what I built, proud of the difference I have made. When I die someday, decades from now hopefully, I want people to remember me as someone who fought back when wronged, who stood up for others, who turned pain into purpose. I want my legacy to be the lives I helped and the laws I influenced and the example I set. That seems like enough. That seems like a life well lived, despite everything. So yes, I came home from deployment to find my HOA had auctioned my belongings. Yes, I sued them and made them replace everything. But the real story is what came after, the life I built and the person I became and the good I did with the bad. That is the story worth telling. That is the story I am proud of. That is my story.